So another one for the big carp archives. You know, last time I sat down and told a story was Hartleys. So far, what have we done? So we've done the big plated, where we started in Oxford. Then eventually I moved on to Lynch Hill in Oxford again. Started on Christchurch, sort of covered you know, one of my favourite captures over there on Hartleys in the last story that I told. And then eventually I end up venturing over naturally. Progression is Stone Acres. Totally different lake, big old boating lake. All, you know, it was a big step up for me. But I'm actually going to skip past that because we're sort of working on a big project for that lake in particular, and quite a few of my captures on there at the minute. So I'm going to skip past that and go to the next one, sort of chronologically, if you like, in order. And my next challenge was Burghfield, and that's where I was going. I'd actually finished up on Stone Acres in the spring of 2016. It was April, and would you believe it, the year that I caught my target, bite mark, absolute mega carp by the way, hence the name bite mark. It had this big scale on the side of it. I'd been after it for a good few years and eventually managed to get my hands on it, and yeah, that was a big ending to a massive campaign for me, really. Probably my biggest and most you know, in-depth campaign that I'd really gone on. I learnt so much from using the boat on Stone Acres. But as I say, I'm going to skip past that one because the year I finished that campaign for Bite Mark, called it, is the year that I got the phone call to say that I was getting my ticket for Burghfield, and I was hungry. Now, I think it goes without saying, I'm gathering that most people watching this you know, have heard of the Burghfield Common, but if you haven't, it's a big old carp, a very big carp, but it's a rarely caught carp, and it's not just all about the carp itself, it's about where it lives. That's what makes the Burghfield Common the lake, Burghfield Lake. That is what it is. I remember Ozzy, I think his description in his book was, it's like someone's given a crayon to a 2-year-old and let them just draw a lake, and that's what it was. And that is probably the best description I've ever heard of it, because it is just loads of bays and islands. I'm pretty sure there's 26 islands, 11 bays, you know, a lot of out of bounds, unfished water, or, you know, places that you can't fish on there. It is what I would call, you know, a carp angler's dream, but also a carp's dream. You know, if carp want to go, you know, avoiding captures, you know, and even avoiding being seen for a large period of time, a long period of time, that's the way to do it. And this carp just knew it. It knew it like the back of its hand or the back of its fin. It was a very clever carp, as I'm sure you'll realise after the end of this. But yeah, it was a big old challenge. It had only been caught by very few. I think at the time of me going on there, Laney was the last person to catch it, and that was 2, maybe even 3 years previous to me coming on there. So yeah, big old challenge ahead of me, and I was about to find out exactly what Burghfield was all about. Was I ready for it? Was I? Yeah, probably never. I don't think you can ever be ready for a lake like that. It is the ultimate challenge. That's what I've always said, and I will always, you know, I didn't, to be honest, you know, being honest, I've never told this story in this light, in this much detail. You know, I have told, I think I've done one film about the capture of it before, but it was more about the actual capture as opposed to the full journey. So this is going to be sort of new to me. I'm going to dig into the real details of how it all went down, really. Yeah, so let's jump in. So we've got the lake, 96 acres, all these islands, all these bays, all this unfishable water. There's banks that are owned from, there's a little bit of a, you know, banks are owned by different people. There's a load of no fishing banks. There's jet skis and boats on there and buoys placed everywhere. It's literally a nightmare, really, for a fisherman. It's our dream, like I said, you know, it's a beautiful lake and all that. But when it comes to challenges, you know, they're the sort of things that really make Burghfield, you know, these out of bounds, unfishable areas, the crayfish. First time ever really dealing with crayfish. Had the odd 1 or 2 in Oxford, but nothing like this. They were soon going to be causing problems, you know, never really dealt with crays, not on them mass numbers. You know, and for people who haven't fished around crays, they are a nightmare, you know. You could, you know, you can't use normal hook bait straight out the tub, your nice little beautiful pop-ups, they're gone, you know, you may as well forget about them, especially if you're fishing on some gravel or what have you. So yeah, all these challenges were there, and yeah, it didn't make it very easy. So that's the lake. The fish is, you know, only done, I think it was 10 or 11 captures before me, you know, and this is in 40 odd years that we know of, you know, and say that we know of, I don't think there's been any other captures. So for it, you know, it's coming out once every 3 to 5 years, which is obviously a real rare carp, but I just wanted it. I wanted it, and I wanted it bad. I'd read many sort of stories on it and heard many tales about it, and getting that ticket was honestly, it couldn't have been any better timing. I did my first session, it would have been early May. I think it was probably only a week after catching bite mark. Early May, gone down there, a bit of a recce trip. And it's actually worth mentioning that I'd got myself a new tackle deal. I'd always, you know, I'd been in the fishing industry, sponsored angler, whatever, with bait and terminal tackle, bit of clothing and that, but I'd never had like an actual tackle deal. And you know, meaning rods and reels and that sort of thing, and that came into play. And I wanted to mention that because it will come into play later on in this story. And yeah, it was with pure fishing, so it's like greys, hardy, chub. I was using a lot of chub gear and all that, and I switched all my kit over anyway, and I wanted to get down there, you know, break in this new tackle, if you like, and also do a lot of recceing. So I've gone down there, and I knew it was going to be a mission. You know, it takes hours and hours just to walk around the place. I wouldn't like to guess how many miles it is, because it's not just round like this. You know, you're going in and out of bays, and then you're climbing trees, you're looking, especially when it's new to you, it's not second nature, and you know where to check, where they get, where they don't get, you know. So I was like, it'd take you a good full day to lap it properly. You know, you could maybe only get, if you did quick laps, you might get 2 laps of it in a day. That's it, you know. And if you find fish, you're obviously up a tree, you're watching them for a bit. So I was down there recceing, and I actually found fish quite quick. It didn't take me long to find fish. It is one of them places where there is other fish. You know, I wouldn't like to guess the stock, maybe 100 and odd, 100, 150 maybe. Could be well away there. Could be 50 carp, could be 250 carp. I'm not sure, but let's stab in the middle, 150, 200 carp. And yeah, I found them pretty quick in a pit called Pit 2, which makes it sound like a different lake. It is, but it's linked to Burghfield by about a channel about this wide, and they get through in there. You know, this is just another part of Burghfield. They get under this little bridge and they go in there, and I'd found them, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a go for these. These look catchable, you know, put a bit of bait in, they had a little go. And I thought, right, lower the rig in. Here we go, we're fishing Burghfield, let's go, first carp. And it's gone off, and I've caught this fish. It was like a mid 20 pounder, buzzing my head off obviously, and it wasn't until I actually released that fish that I sort of thought to myself, what are you doing? Like, what am I doing here? You know, like, I'm here to catch the Burghfield Common, or at least try and catch it. I'm not here to, that made me sound like built my own backside there, you know, but I'm here, that's the one that I want, that's my target. I'm a target angler. I want to try and find that fish, try and single that fish out if I can, get to know its, you know, that's the way I angle, if you like. I want to see where it gets, where it doesn't get, learn its traits. Is it, you know, is it a loner? Does it knock around with a certain few fish? All these things, I'm not going to learn it by just going fishing and fishing for, you know, that situation was put right in front of me there with that 20 odd pounder that come in. The common wasn't there, you know. I'm not saying that I was wasting time, but I am saying I was wasting time. I did. I could have literally not fished for that. I walked around the corner and the common was there, and there was an opportunity to catch the common. If there's an opportunity to catch the common or maybe see the common, then that's what, and from that moment on, that's what I'm getting on about. From that moment on, I made it a bit like, you just got to keep going, especially on them days where the conditions permitted me to look for this fish, you know, because sometimes you turn up, it's overcast, choppy, raining, whatever. You're not going to get that opportunity to see them. But when the opportunity did arise, from that moment onwards, it became about hunting, looking, trying to find out what these fish were doing at all times. So I pretty soon become familiarised with the lake. You know, I really like to, you know, climb trees, hunting them out. And it wasn't long, I was probably, I think it might have been my second, maybe even my third session. It was mid to late May, and I found the common. You know, I actually couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it. This thing is colossal, bigger than anything I've ever seen before. This is pre-spawning. Bear in mind, the common's biggest weight at the time would have been, I'm pretty sure it might have been Nigel's capture, which was in the 2000s, you know, and that was about 57 pound, and it hadn't been caught pre-spawning. I'm not too sure if Nigel's was sort of pre or post or around that time, but it hadn't been caught for years pre-spawning. Every capture of that fish generally is, well, it is post-spawning. You know, it's never been caught in the winter. You know, there's all its captures, or probably 8 or 9 of its captures at the time, we're all in this little 4 to 6 week window after spawning. And I've obviously got my eyes on this fish pre-spawning, and it's massive. Like I remember I was down a dogleg, which is like basically there's a chain of islands and basically a big bay that sort of forks around like a dogleg shape. It really pinches into 6 foot wide, and it's a waste of time even trying to describe it to you without being there or seeing it from a bird's eye view. You're just not gonna understand. But yeah, I found it down a dogleg, and it's known for getting seen in there, but it hasn't ever done a capture in there. It's more of an area that it goes and chills, but it hadn't been seen down there for a number of years as far as I was aware, and definitely not been caught down there. And I've got it, and it's right in front of me, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I've got to have a go for this. But yeah, the size of it was stretched white, like when a common, and it's real big and they sort of twitch off to the side and you see the whites come from under its scales. It was big old I'm talking like this. That's no exaggeration, a foot wide down below. I could see over its shoulder, which is shoulders like this, and I'm seeing this stretch below, and I'm thinking, that is massive. So obviously I've gone and got the kit. Let's go, shaking. It didn't take me long to get, it's a big old walk, it's one car park really, 2 car parks around the lake, pretty dodgy. It was all a bit of a rough area at the time, and things have changed around there now, but when I was there, it was definitely all, it was overgrown. It was almost, another thing that I've not mentioned there is what was happening with when it got caught, it'd come on everyone's radar for a bit, and then after a couple of years of it not getting caught, it sort of got quieter. It's all overgrown, trees falling over everywhere, brambles everywhere. It's just woven past through long grass and nettles and all that. It's not. I know these days it has been taken on a bit better, and they've got nice paths and all that. But it was real rough terrain, let's say. Some places that you go to, you'd have to unload your barrow, pass it over a fallen tree, and then carry on and all that. So yeah, but I've gone and got my kit. It's a big mission right down to the bottom of this dog leg, but I probably did it in about 7 seconds, like after seeing that fish. I was down there, and yeah, it was with a few different fish, and this is when I started. When I'm looking to try and capture a certain fish or single it out, I'm really looking for these fine details. I don't just go, oh, there's the Burghfield Common. I go, right, what can I learn from this? Where did it come from? Where's it going? Is it is it giving me any behavioural sort of, is it giving away any behaviours? What mates is it with? Is it, these things, because you're not just going to know it from one sighting, but the more you start to see a certain fish and it do the same similar things, then you can start to build that up as, this isn't a coincidence, this is something. And one thing that I picked up on straight away, and I've got some footage of this, I've got loads of beautiful footage of it that I'm sure you'll be seeing over the top of this film. And yeah, one of the things that I noticed is when it swam with its back out, so its big shoulder be out, big shoulder like this, foot wide. It was about 4 foot behind it, because it's that long, would be this little top lobe like this. Like you just see it nick the water, and it's not really a common thing that happens. I have seen the odd fish do that over the years from different lakes, do it, where the tail just touches out, but not one that's 4 foot behind it. There's only one carp that does that. And that really became a big part of, it's one of the biggest bits of information I learned straight away about that fish, because what that allowed me to do is thereafter, if it was a sunny day and I saw a hump cruising around and a little flick of a tail every now and then just kissing the water 4 foot behind it, I knew it was I didn't have to be up the tree. I could be 200 yards away from it with a set of binos and know it was there and see where it was going, so just really trying to get into where my mind was at and what I was trying to do at the time. And also I'd noticed a few fish that it was with, a fish that it was definitely known to always hang around with quite a lot, and they'd done more, more captures than not with this fish, was a fish called the classic carp, another old original. As far as I know, there's probably 3 or 4 different originals left in there, and they're the 2 biggest ones, the common and the classic. And then there was these couple of old commons as well that I spotted it with. One of them in particular was one that I went down the line, later down the line, went to call on pointy face. I noticed it had a bit of a twisted, it had a weird shaped head. I didn't know what was up with it, but it was pointy, basically, hence the name pointy face. And it was just a little old rickety common, but it was small, probably a tenth of the size of the big one. That was knocking around with it, and these fish came through, and I'll get to what was happening anyway. I picked them few bits of information up, and there was a shallow area out in front of me, a little bar, you know, I'm talking to the far bank's only 30, 40 yards. And I saw this common going over the top of it a few times. When that one came out, it had to get its back out. And I put some choddies on top of it straight away. As soon as he shot off, a 4-row straight through, 1 ounce wads, like that. I know that Nigel had caught it on a choddy. I know that it didn't mind a pop-up. It'd been caught on yellows a couple of times. So I'm thinking, right, let's just fish for it. I would normally fish for it. I'm not going to try setting any little mad traps, little nut here and, you know, hidden away. Let's go full blatant mode. Why not? And literally within about, I think it was within about 5 minutes, one of the rods was bust off. Big disturbance on the surface. I've lifted into it. I've got all this on camera as well. And I'm thinking, I've got the Burghfield Common here. It popped up and it was a little mirror that it was with. Oh my God, they were there. It was definitely with it. They were there, but I've got this little mirror. Did a little bit of self-take footage with it and got it back. And then, yeah, put these rods back out. And again, something that I've got on camera. I'm up the tree. So picture the scene. I'm up the tree. I've got these choddies right next to this. So there's this little gravelly area that's cleared on this hump. You'll see it. And it's cleared on top of it. And I'm just trying to aim for that because I kept seeing the shapes go over that. So I thought, right, I'm just going to aim for that. They weren't there ripping it up or anything like that. I could just see that it had no doubt been cleared off Carp, but they weren't doing that there and then. But that's what I aimed for. I could actually see it from the bank just glowing a little bit. And that's where my choddies were. And I'm up the tree, obviously, and I see this common. This is after having that one. Put the rods back out, obviously. And it comes up over the top of the hump. And its back comes out and its tail's behind it, and I know it's it, and I've seen it stop, and then all of a sudden my rod's going beep, beep, and I'm like, and I'm up the tree, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm getting down the tree, and then all of a sudden it's gone beep, 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 and the common goes like that and shoots off, and again, it's all on film, so, and it's just shot off. The Burghfield Common 100% has done me on top of the bar. You know, it's 50-50 with chod fishing. You need them to shoot straight off. Self-hooking, it's shaking its head like that, and like I say, it's all there to see. And yeah, that was my first ever experience of the common. Well, at the end of the day, I've seen it with my own eyes. I know it nailed it, but he's obviously done one. But yeah, what it could have hit the line, who knows? But I'm 99.9% sure that common sucked my upbait in, shook its head and got off, and I was pretty hurt, very hurt. But to be honest, it didn't really go far. It was weird. The next day, believe it or not, it was there, and I sort of knew what was due to come. It was all pre-spawn activity. They were sort of grouping up down that area, and I was just buzzing to be able to see it and watch this carp and learn all these things about it that were going to come into play later down the line in the story. So much so, I got that. I remember there was a lad fishing. He hadn't seen the common, and he was fishing up the arm further, up the dogleg. Sorry, the dogleg system works down the lake, and I was near the end of it. And this lad was fishing across sort of the bay that was further up, and I thought, he's cutting me off here. Yeah, he was further up the channel. He was cutting me off. I'd walked past him earlier in the day or the day before, and I'd seen his lines going over. I thought, I feel like he's cutting me off. Like the common was going that way, and it wasn't coming back for long periods of time. I thought, I wonder if he's cutting me off. So I've ended up going around there, chatting to him and that, and I said, oh yeah, I've seen them spawning down the bottom of the dogleg. I have. I'm gonna pack up right and do one. He went, oh, nice one, mate. Cheers for telling me. Yeah, I'll pack up and do the same. He's packed up. Obviously, I haven't seen him spawning. I've gone and got back on my rods and stitched him right up. I feel bad for it. I'm not gonna say who it was, but if he's watching, sorry, mate. But yeah, that's the sort of limits I was willing to go to. Oh God, people think bad of me, but I'm sure you understand. I felt like he was cutting me off, man. His lines were tight because he was fishing up to a snag, and I understand that that's the way he was fishing, but yeah, it's what it is anyway. It's done now. After that, it turned out that, you know, I did feel bad the next day, to be honest, because they did actually spawn. So actually, I felt bad at the time, but it made me feel a bit better that they did actually spawn. I remember Stokesy turns up. That's where I actually met Pump, Tom Stokes, that is. Don't ask me about his nickname. I'm not too sure where it comes from. I don't think he wants to tell anyone. But yeah, Pump, that's the first place I ever met him, and you know, we did click. You know, we got on real well. Someone I still speak to this day. You know, and that's what I love about carp fishing. You know, you meet people from, you know, all over the place, And if we didn't know each other through fishing, we definitely wouldn't know each other now. But yeah, that's where we met, and he turns up. You know, I told him what had gone on, and he come down, and we had a bit of a sort of social. I don't know. I think we might have had a bar, but we fished that night, and then yeah, we watched the Common. This was quite interesting. We watched the Common the next day, literally evacuate the dogleg system. It had gone all the way from the dogleg right the way up to Alsatian Bay. We tracked it. I remember we were chasing it, we seen it, obviously watching it, some go out. These are going out, and you know, it's pumped to recognise. He'd done a couple of seasons on there already. He knew it like the back of his hand. And he's like, these are exiting, and we've run back round all the way down the dogleg, gone into the scaffold swim, and we've seen them cutting across there, and the next minute we're in Alsatian Bay, which I'm talking is probably, I wouldn't like to guess, but it might even be a mile away from where we'd literally, you know, just seen it up the dogleg. It's exiting, and they've gone all the way up Alsatian Bay. Couldn't believe it. And that they'd swam that far in that quick a time. We're talking probably, you know, it backed me up, it must have been half an hour, and it's up the other end of the lake. Which in the end didn't really surprise me once I got to know that lake and get to know that fish. Now I am going to skip through quite a bit now, because you know what, I think that first season I probably did about 40 or 50 nights. I actually lost more fish than I caught. I had that one on my first sort of session, and then I had that one down the dogleg, and I was starting to get the real true feeling of Burghfield after that. You know, I'll hold my hands up and say I didn't do some of the, you know, I've seen some lads on there and heard scary stories of some of the time and effort and that some of the lads have put in on there. And, you know, I hold my hands up and sort of say, you know, I didn't really do it like them boys have done it, you know, real grinding, grafting it out, numbers game, blah, blah, you know, all that. I was trying to learn the lake at the same time as trying to fish for these little opportunities, and I did get small opportunities. There was another opportunity up in the Alsatian Bay. It was a couple of weeks later, and I'd seen the Common in there, and it was with his little mate again, pointy face. Some beautiful footage of it. I'm up a tree, and there's a hole there, but you'll see how weedy it is. Like, you know, I put a few floaters out just to see if it would take them. There was no way I was going to fish for them where it was. It was just chocker with weed, but it was there just with his little mate, and I put these floaters out like that. Pointy sat over in the weed, and the Common comes over and goes, and again, saw on camera, and it's just sucked this mixer in, and it just goes over to his mate like that, which he goes side by side, and I swear to God, it looked like it passed him the mixer, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? Like, it's one of them things that if I didn't have it on film, I would not have told anyone, because they'd be like, this guy's crazy. We need to get him in an hospital. You know, like, we've got fish feeding fish here, and that's what, and whether it did or didn't, it was definitely mothering this carp. Like, that's the way, you know, as time went on, I was getting these, you know, these visuals on it, and it looked like they were either Bezzy mates or it was mothering it or whatever. It was a miniature version of it. And obviously it had been in there for years. You know, they'd obviously grown up together or whatever, because this was an old prehistoric little Common. You know, it's his little power, what have you. And I see it a few times. So Alsatian Bay, I clocked on it down there. I saw it between the islands. There's an island that you could wade across, like onto the Cigar Island, sort of. There's a big workings of islands, but yeah, it was basically a bit of a no man's land where they like to get, and I saw it down there. That was post spawning again. It was getting around the pond. I was getting eyes on it a lot, and you know what? I thought this fish was going to be not a matter of time without, you know, I'd not seen this fish just uptail and rooting around, and you know, generally the fish that I see are the ones that I catch. You know, that's not me being big-headed. I mean, because I see it often, and you know, I don't generally catch ones that I don't see. You know, because I'm sort of working a plan for what I'm seeing in front of me. But I never ever saw it just tail up. Oh, there's an opportunity. It just doesn't do it. Whether it does, it probably does do it, but it must be in places where you never see, and you know, in the middle of the dark, or it's just going around sucking up crayfish whole because its mouth's like this. You know, you'd think it just doesn't eat, but it's obviously got to that size for a reason. And yeah, I was getting eyes on this fish, and the main things that I took from that first season was fish bomb proof. Because yeah, like I said, I did lose a couple of cut-offs from submerged buoys that you just didn't even know were there. I lost, you know, I lost some to snags. They were savage. You know, this wasn't a maintained lake. Like I say, it was, You know, it was not looked after, and that's what Burghfield was. That's not a complaint. I actually loved it. You know, that's the way Burghfield was, and it put a lot of people off, I'm sure, and it burnt people into the ground. You know, I know a lot of lads have been on there a long time, and you know, you can angle as well. You know, and the lads are probably the most capable anglers in the world, but you know, it's just about timing and a lot of luck. And that's not me trying to be humble or anything. I'm just saying it as it is. Like, you've just got to take your slice and luck as and when you can, without a doubt. But you've obviously got to be angling to your best of your ability. And I'd say that first year on there taught me a lot. You know, had I just turned up, cast a rod out and got a bite off the Burghfield Common, there's no way I would have landed it, because it would have cut me off, tore me up, or done something, you know, that I'd not learnt that year previous, you know what I mean? So yeah, that first year was definitely a lesson. I'd learnt a lot about the fish that I was after. I'd learnt the lake, got to know a few of the boys. It was lovely times down there, you know, barbecues and beers. Let's have it. You know, sometimes it was serious, sometimes it was barbecues and beers, lovely times. You know, some swims you could park in and be right on them, and you know, it was lovely times. But yeah, I'd learnt a lot about the lake and a lot about the fish, and I was all guns blazing ready for that next season. Like I said, I'd had a couple, lost quite a few, learnt how to deal with the craze. And another thing worth mentioning before I skip to the next year was there was a lot of out of bounds, as I've already said. It was owned by different people, but there was a swim or two swims that was for bayless fishing only, and it was a fish called the compound swim. And you know, you would see them bouncing out in this water all day long. We'd be over on the Rawlins bank, and you know, you've been looking at this island with a tin hut on it, and you just see fish bouncing out there all day long, all morning, you know, and you'd be like, oh bloody hell, look at that, I'd love to have a rig over there. And this compound swim sort of fished over that way, but the bailiffs never ever fished it. You never saw them fishing it, you know, maybe every now and then, and rightly so, really, because it seemed like the right place to be. But it was just a shallow bay until you got about 220, 130 yards, and you know, it was just casting then. So you know, it wasn't really somewhere, you know, that's a distance that not a lot of people can hit, that and over. Not everyone can hit anyway. And so I remember ringing Greenacre, that's who owned it, who owns the syndicate, if you like, and I rung him up and I said, look, there's no one really fishing in this swim, you know, I'd love to do a bit of time in there. You know, I'd got to know him a little bit, chatting over the time that I've been in there, and I said, I'd love to do a bit in there, and he said, oh, it's a bit dicey, you know, because there's a guy who owns the land and all that. I said, oh, I sort of know him, you know, he's been fine with it. I think he'd be fine with me fishing, he seems a nice lad and all that. And he said, well, yeah, let me know. He said, oh, I'll have a word with a couple of the bailiffs and I'll come back to you. And he rang me back and he said, yeah, Scott, yeah, we're gonna open that swim. And I went, whoa, what do you mean open it? He's like, yeah, we'll open it. I said, oh, I was just trying to get it for a little bit of me, you know, trying to pull a sneaky one. He said, no, we can't have one rule for one for another and all that. I thought, all right, yeah, obviously I was going to try and play that card. And yeah, he weren't having that, but I said, I tell you what, do me a favour then, just don't make it common knowledge that it's open, let at least someone spot me in there, and then it becomes common knowledge. And he said, yeah, all right, then we won't put an announcement out, but that swim's going to be open. He said, let me know how you get on in there, because that's what I was trying to wrap it around. Or I'll just be the tester to see if it's any trouble with the guy who owns the land and that. But yeah, it didn't pay off, that one. But it was open, and it was me who got that swim open. I'm not saying that, you know, it's all about me, but I promise you, you know, I made their messages, and, you know, Greenacre would back that up. I got that swim open to everyone and not just bailiffs, and it opened up a good old chunk of water. And yeah, over the winter, I did a little bit of time in there, November time and all that, and then I sort of knew that was going to be an area to, not just that I knew it, everyone knew it, that was going to be an area to be for the spring, because it had not been fished out there for a good few years. The land always switches around, you know, it's like, and now this was like the goalposts had moved. We lost the Rawlins bank and gained another part of the bank. You know, it all changed around. It was weird setup, honestly. But, you know, and the other thing is they allowed bait boats. So as soon as that 2017 spring came round, I was all guns blazing. So we are 2017. I believe my first session, that I'd done a couple of sessions in the winter, ridiculously. I remember we'd got Bond Point open, we got this compound swim, there was a, you know, Pingewood Point, all these areas were new to us, to me anyway. They had been opened years ago, but like I say, there was a crazy setup. Don't even get me explaining about the science of it. But yeah, these new areas had opened and we'd lost a big chunk of bank. So I was I was there to explore it, of course. And you know what? I remember sitting there stupidly thinking back in February, the lake had just thawed out. There was still a little bit of ice in the margin. It was like mid-Feb, but the lake had been frozen. It had a lid on it for a good few weeks, and then it was starting to thaw out. And I'd gone down, got in this bomb point, which opened this whole another bit of water up, and it was a lovely zone. And I just thought I wanted to just go down and have a go in there, you know, just chuck some rods out, get some spots or whatever. And you know what kept you going through all that? It was so cold and grim and all that, but just the thought. I remember I actually read Ozzy's, this was around the time of Ozzy's book coming out, and I took pictures of every chapter in his book, not every page in that chapter of his book, and I read it on the bank, and you know, I had the buzz. It was giving me the buzz. Even though his chapter was the summer and I was there in the winter, it was enough to literally ignite them flames, and I was sat there on the whim that, you know, there's a 99.99999 chance percent chance that I ain't gonna catch that fish, but that 0.00001% chance is what kept you going. Because you imagine catching that carp in that time of year and it rolling in your net and just looking at, honestly, I'd probably throw up and faint and get off. But if that went in my net at that time, and that, all I'm trying to get is like that fish just does weird things to you as an angler. It just you know, I'm fully addicted to carp fishing without, you know, through and through. But that fish just took you up to a whole another level. Like, it just got you so pumped, and for it to be February and absolutely not going at it like it was climbing trees or something in the freezing cold, but I was there and I was fishing and I was confident, you know, but it didn't happen. I didn't see nothing, but I was there, and yeah, I watched the lake sort of wake up. I remember, I think I was with Dan the following week, wild boar, doing a bit of filming. I was in Barnett's Point. I think this was just getting in towards I think it was probably March now, into mid-March. I was in Barnett's Point. I was a few days in after moving around a bit. Me and Dan were doing a bit of filming, and then all of a sudden these fish just started showing open water. Boom, boom, boom. Dan will back me up. We were like, wow. Literally watching them. I was looking, I was like, that's compound water. This Barnett's is almost central. It's a point that links the two sides of the lake. You've almost got the deep end where all the compound and the Rawlins Bank and all that is. There's bays and islands up there, and then you've got this sort of point that comes out, and there's probably a, you know, a 30-yard channel that links you then to all the island end. We were on that point. It's got a great view into both sides of the lake, if you like. And they were out there, boom, boom, boom. I was like, mate, that's compound water, that. I can get out to them. Bait boats are allowed. Look, whether you think bait boats, you know, let's square this up. Whether you think they're an edge or not an edge, you know, well, you know, that's not carp fishing. For me, on a lake like that, it offered a massive edge. Not only to get to areas at ranges that you didn't want to be trying to thrash out to, you know, or even be able to reach. It allowed that, but also being able to stealthily approach that and just glide rods in. You know, I remember hearing Stokesy telling his story about when he was using a boat on there. I know he weren't using a boat when he caught the Common, but he used a boat on there, and he would turn a one catch a morning. You know, he did a lot of years on there, and you know, he knows that he would only get one bite if he was casting, whereas he could stealthily drop this bait boat in and he could turn one bite into 3-4 bites in the morning, because he could replace that rod with very little disturbance and fuss. And that's dead right, you know. So they've definitely got a time and a place for me in my angling. I'm not, you know, always using them, but when they're an edge, they're an edge. And on a place like that little edge, you're going to take it. You know, I don't think there's a man on there that can probably say that he hasn't used one when they're allowed to use them. Maybe he is, he probably is, but I'm taking an edge. And I went round there with Dan, and I was like driving this boat out, and I think I put zigs on. They look very ziggy, waking up, you know, flanking off, but it's 18, 20 foot of water. But they were out there, and I drove them out there, zigs, super confident, but it didn't happen. Of course it didn't happen. It's Burghfield. Have a word with yourself, Scott. But I'd watched them wake up there, and I thought, you know what, this is going to be that area, and everyone knew it. It wasn't just me. And yeah, I remember putting a bit of bait out before I left. No, sorry, right, let's recap. So I've left that session, and I came back down the week after, and I was due to go to, so we're talking, you know, this is around early April now, the following week, and I was due to go to the Big One show at the weekend on the chub stand, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go to Burghfield on the way there, do a little session, get a bit of bait in. And also, it was a bit of a recce trip for my brother, Baz. He got his ticket 2017, and it was going to be his first session on there. Pretty sure we were both going to the show, yeah, and we went to that session. I walked around with him. His ticket hadn't started yet. That was it. So it was March leading into April. His ticket hadn't started yet, so we've done a bit of a recce, walking around and all that. I've let him do his thing, then having a mooch around, and I'm putting a bit of bait in. Did a night's fishing, then we shot off to the show straight from Burghfield. So we're at the show, and for the whole weekend. And the weather on the Sunday was an absolute joke. It had gone from good spring weather to super spring weather, 27, 28 degrees or something stupid. It was 20 odd degrees early April, and all I can think about is that fish and that swim, and I'm like, oh, I need to get there. And I remember it getting to about 2, 3 o'clock, and it's probably earlier than that. It's probably 9 in the morning. No, it got to about 12, 1 o'clock, and I was like, I need to go. So I've gone over to the lad who was running the stand there, and I've gone like, mate, I need to go. I've got to get to Burghfield. And we had a little bit of not a tussle, that's a fight. We had a bit of a back, we need you to stay. I was like, mate, surely you want me fishing, surely, I've got to get to Burghfield, there'll be people turning up, the Sunday lads will be doing I've got to get in that swim, I need to get there. And he's ended up, just giving it just do what you want, you always do. And I said, damn right, I'm going. And I've just left and gone and got myself down there, and I've drove straight into that swim. I'm in there. But I did go for a walk around because it was hot. I thought, you know what, they might be venturing up that bay end, because they do like it in the sun. So I've gone for a mooch around. Stokes is on. He's in Island Point. He's in Speedboat Point, doing his thing like he was. He was doing a lot of time in there, caught a lot of fish from there. And he was pulling the Sunday night. I'm sure he was pulling the Sunday night, and that sort of told me, he'd seen fish up there. He doesn't pull that extra night. He's working back then. He wasn't in the fishing game. He was working. They pulled an extra night. Whether it was based on the weather or seeing fish, as it transpires, it was because he'd seen fish and he'd seen the common. But yeah, I had a walk around, and I didn't really see much. See a couple up between the gaps in the island and that, but I thought, no, I'm going to stick with the plan, and I've got myself in the swim. Now at the time, I remember I'd spooled up and I was using some new mono from Berkeley, and I spilled up with the mono because I thought, you know what, it's nice clear water out here. I know there's no real savage snags around or anything like that. Get away with the mono, and it's that invisible, because Burghfield's gin clear, so I didn't want to, raise any suspicions that was there. And this compound swim, just to paint a picture of it, you've got a couple of little dot islands to your left here, and then there's a tyre on a chain, and then a big island with the tin up down it where I said we were looking at it from the Rollins Bank. That's just savage, littered in snags. And then on the right hand side you've got Matey's Land with a pontoon coming off it. It's obviously anchored down with what have you, chains or whatever. And then you've got another island with all savage snags on it. But you've got this big old wide, it's a big old wide gap between two islands. It's probably a good 200 yards wide or something. And it's about 6 foot, and then it drops down. It's about 6 foot deep, sorry. And obviously it's in the spring, so it's all nice and clear, and then it drops down to like a 16 foot, and then comes back up a bit, and then drops into 18, 20 feet. So there's like this trough just down the shelf. Sure, I remember I was obviously wrapping up, but just driving out to the clip on the boat. And sure, it was about 32, 35 wraps, something like that. I've put my normal standard rigs on. I was using a lot of nuts, so you could get away with nut up baits at that time of year. But as the year went on and the craze started waking up, that's when you're going to start running into trouble. But yeah, nut up baits, a little bit of crushed nut, a little bit of sort of 12mm manila, but not much. I wasn't filling it in. It's just spring, little mouthfuls. And, let's be honest, by the time you've dropped it from a boat and it gets down there, it's just a little sprinkling, And one of the things that I've not mentioned there is from the day that I've seen the floater incident, and I saw this pointy-faced mouth. It's got this twisted mouth. I didn't know that at the time, so it gives a little bit away. But it's got this little tiny mouth. And I remember thinking, will they be selecting sort of spots that they're dropping on and bait that they're feeding on? Will the common be selecting that? Because pointy can't feed on anything down there. It doesn't want it. And it was just something. Look, it might have played no difference whatsoever. If I had put 24 mils out, it might still happen. But yeah, from then on, I sort of went down, scaled right down. You know, small crushed nuts, 12 millies and all that, but not much of it. So by the time it probably got down in this 16-foot sort of trough, you know, there's probably just a little white scatter in my little single nut and a little bit. Perfect spring sort of tactics, really. It's how I'd fish on stone acres dropping from the boat. I wouldn't go out like that and go bah, 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 with a load of bait. Little trap in the right area, and that was it. I'd seen these fish wake up the next morning, so I obviously got myself out in the swim, put 2 rods in that trough and put one right up towards the island to the right. My brother has also started his first session. It's his first session, absolutely buzz on. Us 2 brothers fishing together again. You know, we sort of do that, like we'll be in a place at the same time and I'll catch one or he'll catch one and we'll move on apart from each other, and then, you know, we'll come back together at some point. And it was great to have him back alongside me, if you like, or alongside each other. He was on, you know, he was on Stone Acres still, while I was waiting for his ticket for Burghfield, and he came up and we were back together, buzz on, you know, on the phone to each other, and that we tell each other everything. You know, we're brothers. Well, not everything, you know. No, I did. And he'd gone in Bond Point, another bit of fresh water that hadn't been fished, and he could see. So this island that I'm fishing, sort of that's off to my left, he could see down the front of that from the other side, which was great to know. And he could see a bit of water that I couldn't see. So I've got the rods out. He's obviously fishing, doing his thing. And I've seen a couple, and I'm on the phone to my brother, and he's like, I can see them round the back here. There's a lot of fish there. And I'm thinking, you know, at the time, I'm buzzing. But at the same time, if you remember rightly, you know, I've already said, this fish is a bit of a loner. It knocks around with these couple of fish, and that's it. So to be honest, when you had a lot of fish showing on you and all that, it wasn't really the time to be thinking, in my mind, that you're going to catch this common. You know, I always thought when it happens, it's just going to be a bite out of the blue, nothing showing, or one show, a little bit of fishing, and, you know, that's how it's going to happen. Because I just never saw it with these packs of fish, you know. And so it's almost a little bit backwards. It's almost like you need to go there. Oh, there's all the fish over there, so I'm not going there. You know, but obviously it's spring, it's waking up. I'm not saying I don't want to catch any other fish in there. They're absolutely mega. There's some mega carp now, a lot of 40, 50 pound, and maybe even now some other 60 pound fish. Who buddy knows that it will always produce big carp, you know, and like Stokesy says, you know, the end of that common is not the end of Burghfield, you know, that will forever produce big fish. So I'm not saying I was just there trying to catch that fish. So yeah, there's a load of fish showing, and I'm feeling confident, and I'll take anything that comes at that time. You know, it's early spring, you know, start of a new season. I'd had a hard season the year before, done a lot of learning, but lost a lot of fish, and I felt like I was ready for it and learnt a lot. So these fish are showing. It's probably, you know, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. You know, early shows. It's showing and getting closer towards me, and then eventually one of the rods has gone off, and I'm going to say it as it is, and I've never really told this part. So these compound swims, you've got left compound and right, or little compound and big compound. I was actually stood in little compound. It's literally probably 10 feet difference. I'm stood in little compound looking out between the islands, like the Murder Islands. It opens a total different view. I'm looking out there, it's sort of towards where my brother's fishing and that. I'm looking out there, and I've come back in the swim, and the rod's gone. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I've got my receiver on me. Bloody alarm's packed in, hasn't it? Bloody dodgy alarms. This kit that I'd got, it wasn't equipped for Burghfield. You know, that's worth mentioning. You know, this lake will take everything out of your gear. You know, it getting battered. You know, you're brutal. It's a brutal lake, and I don't think any gear is equipped for it really. But this certainly wasn't, and it packed in on me. And I picked up into this fish, and you know, I've probably been there 5 minutes, being honest, you know, so it could have gone at any time. And I've picked this fish up, and it's just out in the middle. It's out, you know. I'm thinking, oh, buddy, at least it's not round the island. I picked up into it, and this fish is on, and I'm bringing it back like that, and all of a sudden I felt grating, and it's just cut off. I'm thinking, oh my God, what's happening here? Can't believe it. You know, I've lost a few last year. I thought I tooled up for this. You know, I've got this 20-pound mono on, super strong, because I'm boating out. I don't need to, you know, be fishing like monos or anything. And then about must have been an hour later, I think I've redone the rod. An hour later, the other rod's gone off, and I picked up into this fish, and it's going. It felt like a good fish, honestly. And all of a sudden, bang, cut off again. I'm like, what is going on here? Now, that I could have blamed that other one on it being on, you know, when I'm out the swim, but this one, I was on it, and you know what, I got it. You know what, I got it all back in, all my lead clip, all everything, and the rig was gone. And I was like, what is going on here? Like, what? is me not gone shoring? I've never had it in my life, you know, pull test, it's good. And I've looked and there's a big burr of metal on the swivel, like it's burred. I'm thinking, that's that ledge. It's burred and it's cut the hook link off on the knot, you know, where the pressure is as it's coming up that shelf, bang, cut it off. It must be savage, and that's what's cut me off last time, cut the line off. You could tell it was something like that. It was grating up that mono, and then the cut was there fresh, and I was like, I need to do something here. So devised a little bit of a plan, because you know, if I'd have carried on, it's bad angling. You know, it took me these couple of fish to learn how to deal with it. You know, these are the first bites I've had in this swim. You know, sort of knew the topography, but didn't know it was that savage. So I rung my brother, and he's got a fresh spill of braid round there for me. £20 sub braid it was at the time. I think it's 20. Yeah, £20, £25, whatever it is. Gone round there, got that spill, re-spilled all them rods up. Not having this, boom, boom, boom. Braid straight through, super strong, sinking braids, straight through to lead core. No messing around with floral leaders and all that. I've got these rods back out exactly the same, ready for the next one. I thought, you know, if this happens again, I'm going to have to stop fishing. If it cuts the braid off, that's it. I can't fish like this. But also, I had the 13-foot rods, and at the side of me, there was like a scaffolding with like a bit of a platform on. I believe Nige actually made it. I think I spoke to Nige about it, and he said him and Tell put that in, because I know Tell had done a lot of time in that swim previously when it was open years ago. So yeah, they put that in, and there was this scaffolding there. So the plan was, if I were to get another chance, I've got this super strong braid, I've got my tall rods, get up on this scaffolding, hold the rod nice and high, and try and combat that ledge with a, you know, a sort of, a, you know, a bit of a more of an obtuse line angle. And next morning, clockwork, same time, had a bite. That's what I've done me a little nifty trick, trotted down the old scaffolding, got up, and I've got this fish, dealt with it, got it in the net, and it was a 28-pounder, and I was buzzing my head off. But in the pictures, you'll see I'm a bit like, because I'm still fuming that I've lost two, and I was blaming these alarms, and I was on the phone to the matey from the show, giving it all this, saying, you know, you tried to keep me at the show, and now your alarms cost me a fish on Burghfield. So yeah, we cut ties from that day on, and that's how that happens. So yeah, I've had this 28-pounder, and literally another hour or so later, there's fish showing out there still. Clockwork again, rod's gone off, and this is a better fish. Giving it all that, and I'm playing it. I'm thinking this is a good one. It's come up the shelf, done me nifty little trick, got it up, got it in the net. And this is a big old carp, 42-pounder, like quite a leathery one, like an oaky brown across the top. And this is my first proper sort of Burghfield carp, if you like, big one, you know. And I'm like, yes, I figured this out, you know. And you know what? It's almost like them first two losses were a little bit of a blessing in disguise, you know, because had I not, you know, had any bites and got cut off, and I was just sat there waiting, and then I was to get the bite, and it'd be the common or what have you, and it just cut me off, you know. I hope you understand that. It's like these first two bites had learnt me, you know, you need to soup your tackle up more than that, mate, if you're going to have a chance of catching me. So I've souped it up, and then these next two fish that I've had, you know, have taught me how to sort of guide with them, deal with them, do me nifty trick. You know, so it was all sort of like the stars were sort of aligning, and the big old moon was coming. It was going to be the full moon that night, and yeah, I was obviously super confident. So the following morning, yeah, 42-pounder, obviously buzzing me head. I think we had a bit of a barbie, bit of a social for that night. Yeah, and I was obviously keen to wake up in the morning and see what was going on. Now, I've woke up and it was dead. Nothing out there, you know. I think I'd seen one near the island there. And it actually, I was laid down, and the way I had my bivvy set up, and looked at my water, I couldn't see this island. I heard it go do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do, like that. And I remember thinking, like that. And I thought, that's a big fish. Nowhere near where I was fishing. I thought, that's one. I've actually got some real good footage of the common showing. It shows just like that, two shows, bang, like that. I remember seeing it, and I've gone, like that, zooms in, and it comes out again, wow, bang, like that. No mistake in it. But anyway, there's nothing there, nothing like this, like they were the 2 mornings before. They'd moved on. I rung my brother, sorry, bit of May fluff, it's May. I rung my brother, and we can see him over in what is now out of bounds on the Rollins bank like this. Wee, woo, we're over here. Giving it all that. And my brother's gone, I'm going to go for a mooch. Like, these have obviously moved out. It's getting on for about, you know, 10, 11 o'clock at this time. He's like, oh, I'm going to go and have a mooch. I've been dying to go and have proper walks around the lake. Fair play to him. He's wound in. He's gone mooching around the lake. And, you know, in my heart of hearts, I'm not saying I was sat there thinking it, but looking back now, especially in hindsight, you know, that was the time, you know. Like I'd already said, you know, I wasn't fishing, you know, to get this bite. I don't think it was one of them. It's almost like, you know, they'd gone off and she'd gone, oh, I might go and have a mooch over there. But anyway, I'm sat there and I'm on the phone to my mum. Remember, I run my mum, I'm on the phone to her, and my left hand has gone off, and I picked up into this fish. I said, Mum, call you back. Picked up into this fish, just feeling it, tap, 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 like that, giving it. And I'm fishing braid side by side, dealt with that. I did. This is edgy. I'm so glad now in hindsight that I did this. So I've got a single beep on the other rod. I'm thinking, right, that's gone under that. So I've picked it up and gone under it, and it's free. And I'm like, wow, sick, yes, buzzing. And I've guided this fish into the bay, done my nifty trick and all that. Didn't really put much of an account up for itself, and I actually thought it was a tench. Wound it in, netted it, and what was it? It wasn't the common, it was pointy face. And I think anyone else looking in that net might have gone, little crappy common, unhooked it and slipped it back, but not me. I was like, oh my God, she's out there. There's a good chance she's out there. She, you know, and I've literally just grabbed a retainer, threw it in there. I remember, like, I only had one net. You know, you didn't fish on Burghfield with 2 nets. Come on, have a word. So I've got this one net. I put the retainer in it, scrambled it like that. And I remember pulling this common out, and the retainer's even drifting off downwind. And I'm trying to get this net. I think I'll grab you in a minute. You're safe. I'll come and get you. Got this net back together, retained that, put a big stick in the retainer to hold that one there. And I'm shaking. I'm obviously thinking this could really happen here. And I've rung my mum back because I was on the phone about, oh, that's what had happened. I'd locked myself out my car. Sorry to jump my van. I'd locked the keys in the van. So I've had to ring the AA. They're coming down, and then I'm also trying to ring my mum to see if she can bring the keys to me, the spare keys. That's why I was on the phone. So I've rung my mum back anyway. And literally, I'm on the phone to me. As it's ringing, the rod's gone whack, literally hit the alarm, the reels hit the alarm, I've picked up into it, and it's just gone, and no exaggeration, you know, you hear, you know, these scary stories, you know, of, you know, these carp doing these things. This did it, trust me, it went off like a train. There was none of this getting up me scaffolding and all that. I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. It was run forward and let it take this line. It went madness. And it started kiting out right in the deeper water. I was thinking, yes. It stopped like that. I've heard my mum answer. I've gone, oh, ring Barry, tell him I've got a fish on. Like that. So she's gone off. I'm like playing this fish. I'm thinking, that's it. You just kite right like that. And I'm playing it like that. Honestly, it must have probably took 80 yards off me. I guess 60, 80 yards at least, maybe more, who knows. And I'm thinking, you just do what you're doing. Tie yourself out there. You know, I don't know it's a common, but in my head, I've got this, you know, it's all sort of working out. And I'm just thinking, you just keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to get up on this scaffolding, and I swear to God, he just put an end to that. She just went from right to left and went straight round the back of that island where the tin hut was and all that. And I'm like, no. And all I could do, I could see the bush, my line's going into the corner of this bush, and this fish is probably 40, 50, 60 yards around the back of that. And I'm just like, come on. And I can feel it going like here, and it's grating. And I'm like, you know, and what am I going to do? You know, I've just got to keep pulling. And this line's just going like this in this bush. And all of a sudden I thought, is it there? I could see a bit of a wallowing. I thought, it's on the surface. And it's gone like that, whack, like that. It must have gone out with its head. And the line pinged off the tree. And the fish just went like that from left to right. Literally, it was slack line like this. And I'm like trying to catch up on it. The line's limp in front of me. It's going that fast. And I'm seeing this beeline coming off the surface, literally V-lining off the top. I'm like, wow. And it's going for this jetty down the right-hand side. She knows what she's doing. And I must have been probably 2 rod lengths off it. And I've gone whack like that. And I've gained in it. Its tail was coming out like that. I'm thinking, you can't go through there. And I'm back into it. And then all of a sudden, as soon as it knew it couldn't get there, it's gone slack. I'm like this. No, and it's come back a front. And this was heart in mouth, because this is where the dot islands are. I knew I could stop that, but I couldn't stop it kiting around these dot islands. And I remember it went long, and I see the tyre that's on a chain bob like that. and that's just, you know, that's just covered in mussels, no doubt. And I'm like that. It's coming right to the left, touched that cable, touched that chain, and gone through 2 dot islands. And it's like there's a bar that joins these 2 dot islands up, and it's shallow this side and deep on the other side. It's gone round in the deep water, and I'm like, no, like it's just on a rampage basically. What it wanted to do, it did, and I could see it rolling on the surface behind the dot island. So I'm trying to get out in the water, and I've pulled like that, and all of a sudden this shape has just risen out of the water like that, big massive shoulder. I've beached it on its belly on the shallow part of the gravel, and it sloped back in and come over, and it swam past the front of me. And from that moment on, I knew I was connected to the Burghfield Common, and all I had to do, all I had to do was just play it. And I remember seeing it was right here in the scissor, little tiny nut, and it was nailed, and I thought, all I've got to do is get you in that net. Neil's walked in the swim, Neil Mundy. Not heard any commotion, just come in naturally. All right, mate, it's the Common, it's definitely it. Give him his due. He just stood there in silence, nothing going on. And I'm playing this fish, and it was going on these mad savage runs, 40, 50 yards, and then it just come back towards me. That real weird behaviour, you know. And eventually I managed to get it in the net. It's so long, like I had to eventually fold it in the net, and it went in there, and I went off my head. Honestly, me, Neil, my brother come running round in the end like he was running. I rung him, said, he's here, Lloyd, you know, giving it all that. He's even got a video on his phone where he's running round, recording himself, saying, when your brother's got the Burghfield Common and you're running around like this. Honestly, it was absolute chaos. The AA guys turned up in his yellow jacket in the swim. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. We're just going berserk. And that is exactly how it went down. And wow, this thing looked massive. Honestly, it was so big. I've got nothing to compare it to apart from the year before, which I'm gonna hold my hands up and say it was definitely bigger than when I caught it. You know, the year before it was, because it was just before spawning. But anyway, it sat in the bottom of my net, and I've got this carp. And you know what? It was one of them. I'm sure lads will be able to back me up here in the sense of I still needed confirmation. I knew it was it, but I'm sat on my bed, I'm head in hands, and my brother got in the swim, and I've stabbed it in and out in the water, and no one's gone and looked at it yet. I said, just go and check, tell me it's it. And he's walked in and he went, are you mad? What else is that? Like, it's just honestly, what a carp. And a little bit of a cool story around it was, I didn't want to get it out. Obviously, I've made the few phone calls to get the boys down. Dan was coming down. He ended up getting about 3 speeding tickets on his way down. Sorry, Dan. Yeah, I didn't want to get it out on the mat, retain it up, stress it out and all that. So what I did is I actually I had this big, long chub retainer. About the only good thing they did do. And I put it in the net like that, and got the fish in it. Oh, sorry, I didn't put it in the net. I put it outside the net. That's it. So I put the net inside the retainer and zipped the retainer up, and I've got this ball of net coming out the top, and I literally said, chuck me them scissors, and I just cut the net straight off, put my hand in and sort of unwove it from the net, because there was no way we were risk losing this thing. And I've still got that net. It's like a little piece and the net itself, like, which I think is pretty cool. We cut the Burghfield Common out of it, and I retained her up. Everyone came down. There was a big old gathering. Obviously, this thing looked massive. Me and my brother were the only ones to see it, and Neil, and the AA man were the only ones to see it before it, when it went in the retainer. So everyone was like, they didn't know what they were expecting, and I pulled this thing out, and wow, it was absolutely. Missed an important part there. We got Pointy Face out, of course we did. Got her out for the test shots as well before the main prize, and that was an incredible carp. Almost didn't really get the respect it deserved, because I think my head was just totally blown off, and it was like but no, it was a wicked carp, all twisted up. It all made sense now, and it was all weary, its tail all battered. I think it was like a mid-20, but you could just tell it had years on it. And yeah, what a special carp, and definitely one that sort of maybe did play a huge part in the capture, no doubt. And then we've got the main prize out, and I unzipped that retainer, and you'll probably hear it in some footage that you're about to watch. Everyone was just so shocked, myself included.
Jesus Christ!
Right, my way, yeah? Got her. She's gone. Right, you're going to zero that up.
You photo him first, or you weighing it?
Photo first.
Okay.
Right, move back, boys.
Out of the way, that's it. That jumper out the way.
Shaking Stevens.
Yeah, mate.
I got her up, held her up for the camera, obviously mega fish, and then we did the weigh-in, and my head fell clean off because it went over 60 pounds. It lifted up, and I watched that dial. I'm on the other side of the scales actually, and my brother goes, "It's a 60 pounder." I'm like, "What?"
No, 60 pounds.
What? 62 bang on. 61.40, 1 ounce under. 1 ounce under 62.
And yeah, it went to 62 pounds dead, and we took re-weighed the retainer after, because obviously it's quite a critical weight when it gets over that. Re-weighed the retainer, it's 8 ounces down, so we added it up. It's 62.8, and we got her back. And yeah, a little bit of a just to finish on. What a carp, you know. I think I was the 12th person to catch it in all those years. 62 pound 8 ounce. I'm pretty sure it's the first capture sort of pre-spawning in April, and it started to open up a few minds of people, and you know, that this carp was getting around the lake. It always had this perception of, you know, just doing bites down the end, down the shallow end, but yeah, it was starting to get caught in all different places there. It hadn't now. Well, this one was. It was like I know Oz had caught it its first time in the scaffold. Then Laney had it at Laney's swim, and then the scaffold swim. So it was starting to open up a lot. You know, every capture of that fish is learning you more about that fish. You know, and yeah, it was a mega moment to share it with my brother and Dan and all the boys that were there. It was insane. And a little bit of a story to end on is, a film came out on it, you know, on Sticky's page, and about 6 months later or something, and I got a message on Instagram saying, "My name's so and so from," pretty sure it was Weights and Measures or Ruben Eaton. I'm sure it was Weights and Measures, and he said, "You do know that fish was bigger than 62 pound. Obviously, it's grabbed my attention." I'm like, "What do you mean, mate?" He said, "Yeah, you've bottomed your scales out." Us being us in that moment, no one thought it was going to be that big. We weighed it on a pair of 60 pound scales that bottomed out at 62. It just literally spins around and goes bam, like that. The only reason we got 62.8 is because we knocked the 8 ounces off. He said it could have been anything. What you should have done is either 100 pound set scales, obviously, or put 2 sets together. But I promise you, we didn't notice, no one noticed. So, you know, just to end that little bit of a tale, we just don't know how big it was.